Hey, so just a quick video to talk through how we can link the responses across from one survey to another and also maintain who is actually taking the survey and link the two responses together. So if I click into my first survey, so survey 1, these are just testers in my own account. This is just the survey that I want people to come in from the anonymous link and take. What I would recommend having is just a question somewhere in the survey that asks for this person's email address. This way we can either save them to a contact list and store the information there, or we can use this to send an email trigger with the link to the second survey and allow them to just go straight from their email into the second survey. So I'm just going to call this email. And that's perfect. So let's just talk down the route of the email trigger, because I personally find that this is much easier to use. But if you do decide to go down the contact list route, then just let me know and I can talk you through that as well. But basically what we want to do is we want to click into the tools area right here. We want to go to triggers and email triggers. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the to email address is going to be the participant's email that they've entered in the first question. So to do this, we go to the pipe text menu here. We pipe from a survey question and we pipe from the question that asks for their email address, and this will pipe in whatever they have entered into this text box. So all we need to do is just copy that and paste it into the to email address area. So this will dynamically change and send to each person's individual email address. You then set who it's from. In the email body, you can add whatever you want in here, but the main thing we need to pass through is the link to the second survey. So we will go get that just now, and I will come back to this. But you can obviously add whatever else you want into this email body. If you want to send each person a response report of what they've entered in this original survey, then just leave this box checked. But if not, you can just remove that, and it will just send whatever you contain in this text box here. So I'm going to go ahead and save that trigger for now. Now I'm going to go to my second survey and get the link from my second survey so that I can send it once they've finished. In that email, you might as well just add that you can only take survey 2 in a week from now, so on the Monday and the date of that Monday that they can take the second survey. But I'm going to go to get a single reusable link to grab the anonymous link. And I'm going to copy this, and this is what I'm going to put into my email trigger. So doing it this way, we don't need any sort of personal identifier. You don't need someone to actually authenticate into the second survey and ask who are you, and for them to enter, for example, their email address, and then that way we can identify who the person is. Using this method, we're actually passing all the information we're interested in along in the link, so we don't need to ask them for anything. So if we go back to our email triggers, I'm just going to for now paste in that anonymous link in here. We can of course disguise this as a hyperlink a little later on if you'd prefer, but for now we'll just leave this as is. Then what we need to do is we need to start appending the information we're interested in onto the end of this link. So to do this, we're first going to just append an ampersand onto the end. We're going to go to the pipe text menu. We're actually going to give this a name first. So if you do want to pass through some information about this participant, for example, their email address, we can just do, for example, and email is equal to, and then we go to our pipe text menu and we go get that piece of pipe text again for their email address. And this is going to pass through an embedded data field called email, and it's going to pass through the value for this person and for each person that you trigger this email to. So then we can append another one, so ampersand, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give these very simple names just so that it's very easy for me to remember. I'm going to say Q1 equals, and then I'm going to go back to my pipe text menu and start picking out the answers that I'm interested in from my survey. So for example, if I'm interested in their answer to do they have a membership, I would go to that question and I would pipe through the selected choices. And these are just going to be passed through into the second survey. So I would just keep appending as much information as I'm interested in. So for all of the questions or embedded data or anything else that you've stored in this survey, you can leave everything you're not interested in alone, because you're still going to be able to tie these back together to be able to use them a little later on. So again, I'm just going to go to selected choices, and then I'm going to pretend that that's all of the ones that I'm interested in. But of course, you can keep adding as many as you wish. So now this looks quite messy. So what we're going to do is we're going to disguise this as a hyperlink to make it look a little bit easier for our participants. So we're just going to copy that link. We can then go ahead and just bring it down to the original survey link if we would like. And we can just copy over that, go to the hyperlink menu, and then just paste in the entire link here with all of our appended information on the end. So this is going to be stored in the background, and this is where people are going to be brought to when they click on that anonymous link right there. So we can click OK. What we could do instead, if we wanted to, is we could just say click here, for example. So click here, and then we can use the hyperlink here. So when they click on click here, it will bring them to that link. So we're disguising all of that appended information so they don't really know that we're doing this. So that's the way to actually gather the information and pass that through into this, or send that to the person so that we can identify who each person is. So the last thing we need to do then is we need to go ahead and save the triggers here. And we need to go back to our second survey so that we can actually add some embedded data that will strip this information out of the link when they go through. So if we go to survey 2, we click into the survey flow up here. We're going to go ahead and add a new element, and we're going to add embedded data. In here, we need to list all of the fields that we're passing through. So our first one was just email, and this is case sensitive, so make sure that it's the exact same way as you have appended to your URL. My next one is Q1, then I have Q2, and I would do this for each field that I've appended. So this is why I recommend keeping it to very simple names. And you'll see here then it says value will be set from panel or URL. So we are passing the values through in our URL. So as soon as it recognizes the email address in the URL, it will be able to strip that information out and store it for this response. So you'll be able to identify across responses who each person is. We then just move this to the very top of the survey flow. So it's the first thing that's used, or first thing that's recorded for these participants. Then all you need to do is, if you do want to present some of this information back to the participant in the second survey, for example, we could pipe into this question right here and say, in the previous survey, you said you had, and then, for example, one of my questions was, what memberships do you have? And that was question 2 in my survey. So I can go to the pipe text menu, an embedded data field, and my Q2 embedded data field, which I've added to my survey flow, will be containing the results from question 2 in the previous survey. So then I can say you had, and this will pipe in all of the different memberships that that person had in the previous survey. And then they can go ahead and answer the question. You might ask, do you still have these, for example? And then they'll be able to answer the question based off of that. So that's the basics of passing information through and also being able to identify respondents across surveys and across responses. But going to your next question, which is making sure that people can only take it on the day that you've specified, what you can do is you can click into survey options here, and there is a section under survey protection that is survey expiration. So you could, for example, click in here and say that I only want this open on Monday the Monday the 17th, for example, from X amount of time. And I want it to also close on the 10th or on the 17th at like midnight, for example. Sorry, the 19th. I'm getting confused here. But for example, this will make sure that the survey is only open for this Monday, and it will not open beforehand, and it will not be available to click into afterwards either. So in that way, when you trigger the email trigger from the first survey to these respondents, if they try and click on the link that you've provided them before this date, it will just say the survey is not yet active. And then once that date comes along, they can click on the link and take the survey as usual. If they do try and access it after this date, then they will not be allowed to. So I hope that answers a couple of questions you've sent in, but if you do have any problems setting this up or any other questions, just let me know.